All right, all right. Uh-oh, an error has occurred.
I see
Hmm.
live.
Let's try. Okay. All right, here we go. Let me get my phone here. All right, and I can go into my group here. All right, it's starting
Uh-oh.
now. Mm. Have you ever seen any of my videos?
I watched a couple of them. Yeah, I wish I could say I like did more research, but
Don't
I
worry
watched.
about it.
Okay.
I appreciate your honesty.
Oh,
Oh,
it's been like
I,
a wild couple of weeks, but I did. I had seen you on TikTok before.
oh, okay, cool, cool.
Yeah.
All right, let me turn this down. Hey, hey, welcome, Marlo. All right, everybody's watching. If you are watching, so welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are watching, I am the doctor, aka Coach Ken, and glad you all could join me here. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna have some major fun. Oh, y'all, you all are going to love my guest. What's up? What's up, Twiggy? How's it going? Listen, y'all, I am the Dr. Ken Canion. I am in the house. And tonight we're going to talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Yeah. So I'm going to let the people get in. I'm going to let you get in. And so we can really talk about sex and how sex affects our relationship. And you know how everybody always talking about, men, we always talk about, I'm the man. I'm the man in the bed.
Oh
Well,
God.
we're going to talk about all of that. Yo, I'm going to introduce my guest, but I'm not going to do a formal introduction because, I started watching her on TikTok. And you guys know I'm on TikTok, and not many people like mesmerize me, but she did. And it's like her content is dope. What's up, Sonya? Well, Sonya, we got both Sonyas in the building. Welcome, y'all. Get your glass of wine. Get your glass of wine and maybe some cheese and relax. Because I got something good coming to you. All right,
Oh
y'all.
my God.
So we're gonna listen, put the kids to bed. All right. And hey, Stephanie, how are you? Welcome, 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 welcome to Coach Ken Live. And so tonight we're gonna talk about how sex affects your relationships. Now, I know my next guest is coming on, and I'm gonna introduce her in a second. But hey, y'all, first off, let me know who's on and where you calling from. Why don't you give me your check-in? Let's check in and see where you coming from, where you calling from, and who's calling or who's watching, not calling, who's watching. I want you to just check in, let me know. All right, so good. What's up, Bertil? How are you? I hope you're well. All right. So, Marlo calling from Dallas, Texas. What's that? Chantel from North Kakalaki. We got Lady T from
Wow.
New York City. All right. Denise from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Baton Rouge. Ahoskie, North Carolina in the building. Maryland. What part of Maryland? What's up, Tamra? Glad you could join us from YouTube. We got Tuscan. Okay. We're on the YouTube too. Listen, all right. Hey, what's up, Mari from Jacksonville, Florida? All right, y'all. Y'all keep checking in. So we're about to get started. We're getting started in 30 seconds. 30 seconds. All right. So, all right, Stephanie calling in from Georgia, that Georgia peach. Lynn from North Kakalaki. All right, that's where I am. All right, Temple Hills, Maryland in the building. Okay, y'all. All right, so listen. All right, we got Jan from ATL. All right, y'all. So look, all right, let me get started. So you guys know that I do all kinds of relationship stuff. And I rarely do sex stuff, but the funny thing is whenever I do something sex stuff, TikTok they always mute me. And my guest for the evening, TikTok does not mute her. And I don't know why, but but she can talk about sex, but she always does it in like the coolest way. So I wanted to bring her on to my show because I thought she could add so much value to what people do, what they need. And I'm going to ask her all kinds of questions. And yeah, and if you have questions too, I want you to put them in the comment section, or I want you to just ask your questions because she is dope smart, y'all. Smart as hell. But she's just so cool and down to earth. So without further ado, I want to say her name, Sabrina B. I'm not gonna give it. All I know is she's a sexpert. All right.
Oh Lord.
A sex education expert. Okay. And she's an influencer. So, y'all, without further ado, I want you to welcome Sabrina B. Hey, Sabrina.
I'm already having so much fun. Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. I'm really good.
I'm excited too. Listen, Sabrina. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna start this off. I'm going to be nice at first. I'm gonna be nice
God.
to you, but I'm gonna be saying all kinds of stuff. I want to
Okay.
ask you this. First off, I've watched your videos, and
Okay.
I'm very intrigued by the way you deliver content, what you do. First of all, before we get into anything, tell the audience why you do what you do and how you got into it.
Okay, so I have taught sex ed for about 10 years on and off, and it's mostly to kids because that's where you get an education. So I go into schools, I teach about menstruation, I teach about ovulation, safe sex, stuff like that. I've traveled abroad, I've taught sex ed in Kenya. In every capacity that you can teach sex ed, I've basically done it. I've even volunteered at crisis centers and stuff like that.
Wow.
Recently, I just decided like I wanted to get better, get more knowledgeable in the subject, and I enrolled in a graduate program in sexual health. And as I was learning, I was like, it would be so much fun to tell this to people. All the stuff that I was learning were things. I'm in my 30s. I have a kid. I had never learned about sex, and I felt like it was just so unfair, like, and that adults are just piecing their sex ed together. We're figuring it out as we get along. So I'm sitting in these classes, like on my laptop, taking all these, classes on adult sexuality. And that's the first thing I really learned in school was adolescent sexuality is different than adult sexuality. And your sex life, your sexuality runs on a lifespan. So you're going to be different than you were when you were like 13 years old, obviously. But your sex education stops around that age. So everyone's just kind of like feeling around in the dark. So anyways, I'm learning all these things in school about arousal. I'm learning about fantasy exploration. I'm learning about how, men experience arousal differently and stuff like that. And it all just kind of
fantasy. Yeah. See, she can just y'all notice how she can just let that shit roll off her tongue like nothing, like arousal and sexual fantasy. That's why I was like so intrigued. So tonight, we're going to take it from a standpoint of couples. I'm going to ask you some couple stuff and not just couples, but individuals. And we're going to get deep into it and we'll just see where it goes. Is that cool?
Yeah, but I want to say, like, I'm studying sex therapy. So that's the couple stuff. So my experience has always been teaching teens. And now I started after sex ed because I want to teach adults. So let's go for it. Like, I've learned a ton and let's just try.
Listen, on her TikTok channel, she's not talking to kids.
No,
all right.
It's for grown-ups.
She knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to minimize that. All right. So let's start this. Let's start this like this. Tell me this.
Yeah.
If you had to put a number on like the role that sex plays percentage-wise, in relationships, in successful relationships. Mm-hmm. And I know it would probably differ based on the age of the couple. And so I'm not going to back you in a corner like that. But what happens when people are sexually incompatible, if you will? Can you solve that?
I mean, it depends depends, right? So how important is sex? It really depends on the person. So some people, sex is this really um important part. Okay, I would argue that sexuality and sexual health works in relation with your mental health. So if you are struggling sexually, and it can impact how you feel mentally, it can cause depression,
Mm.
and it can cause all these things. And I think people understand that it's possible that you could be mismatched incompatibly with somebody, but I think that you can solve those things by talking about what is important to you. But you'd have to like really zoom out. Like, are we talking about sex right now? Like, what is sex exactly? Is sex a penis goes into a vagina? Are we talking about intimacy right now? Is intimacy like, are intimacy and sex the same thing to you? Like, those are the kinds of things you'd have to ask couples, because it differs for some people. Some people are saying, I need more sex. And when you really talk to them, they're just like, I feel kind of alone and I don't feel close to you. So what they really want is like physical touch, communication, talking, non-sexual activities are done together, things like that. I know it's kind of a weird answer, but I mean, sex is important to lots of people. I think that it is important in varying degrees to different people.
So let me ask you this. So I get a lot of people. So recently I had one of my students,
Yeah.
and she was like, it was a female. And she
Hmm.
said, my guy is not, I got a letter, Ken, and what do I do? My guy is not satisfying me. And
Yeah.
we view sex differently. And I'm not really, I want to let him see the inner freak in me,
Yeah.
but I don't know how he will take that. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you ever run into a situation where you've got, especially females, many times, um,
Yeah.
they're not willing or wanting to be perceived a certain way,
Yeah.
so they don't want to let that inner freak out, to show him, for two things. She was like, "This is what I want you to do for
Hmm.
me, and I want this. I want to show you this is a part of who I am." So how do you
Yeah.
handle a situation like that?
I mean, like, I wish there was like a really simple answer. I feel like when women talk about sex, they often talk about like their ideal sex that they have is like that. Like, I want to let go and I just want to like I want to be totally uninhibited.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. You just froze on me. This
Lost
I don't need
you.
it.
There
Oh,
you are.
you froze on me. You did like,
Yeah.
did I freeze or did you freeze?
You cut out. I didn't even see you anymore.
Okay, okay.
Anyways.
So you were saying there was not an easy answer for that if a
Yeah.
woman wanted to release her inhibitions or whatever, and she was afraid of how the guy may perceive her. So how do you tell them to handle that?
Yeah, and when women talk about sex, they usually in some way kind of say something like that. I want to be able to really let go. I want to be able to get lost in sex, and I want to be able to just like be totally uninhibited. And then when you kind of like peel away the later layers, they're talking about being able to trust him. Is he mature enough to handle this? Is he going to hurt me? Is he going to judge me? Things like that. If she wants, like, if this person that you're talking about is like, I really want to be able to talk to him about this, like, she just has to be able to trust him. Like, does she trust him? Is he trustworthy? Because then if you can't be uninhibited with him, the question for her would be like, why? Like, what's on your mind? What is it about him? Like, do you think that he's going to judge you? Because you have to be kind of careful. Is he going to judge you? Like, those are questions that he'd have to answer that.
But
Like,
those
what
are
does he think of that?
questions, but those are
Hmm.
questions they don't even know the answer to themselves. A lot of
Yeah.
times they don't know the answer. So that's where I come in. I may not come in
Yeah.
with the sex part, but I come in. So one of the things that I teach people, I said there are three things that I want you to understand. There
Hmm.
is, and if you want to understand in communicating about sex, there are three things. Number one, there's sexual availability.
Okay.
There's sexual appetite, and then
Yeah.
there's sexual expectation. I said each one of these things is extremely important. So we've got to talk about the availability and what that means. We've got to
Okay.
talk about the appetite and what that means. And then we got to talk about the expectation and what that means. And a lot
Yeah.
of times in my coaching, I find out that people don't discuss these three things. And they don't discuss them for whatever reason, but primarily because they believe that they might be judged. They believe
Yeah.
that the person might not accept them. They
Yeah.
believe that the person might not be like them. And so
Yeah.
because they're not like me, then I'm going to feel alienated when I express these things. But
Yeah.
I always tell them the truth is that's the only way you're going to find out. The only
So
way
you're
you're
gonna
going to
find out. And if like even in like married couples, people that have been together a really long time, which is so much of what I'm studying now in sex therapy, like just because people are married doesn't mean they talk to each other about anything. Like,
Mm.
and one of the first things we learned was people can have sex with each other. They can put their mouths on each other's genitals, but you cannot get them to talk about sex. They won't talk about it. They can't look at each other in the face and just communicate, which is so
Hold on.
funny. It's like they'll do
You
anything
said
but.
they can put their mouths on their genitals and they won't even talk
Yeah.
about sex. Wow. I,
Oh, you cut out again.
I think it's your phone cutting out because
Okay.
but that's okay. I got you. Hey, listen, I'm not letting you go because I got you. So let me ask you this: how
Uh-huh.
do you get them to communicate? What do you say? What techniques do you use to get people to start talking about it?
I mean, again, I'm studying this now, and I think there's like great exploratory questions that you can ask each other, and I asked some of them like what is sex to you? Is it about making somebody feel good? Is it about you feeling good? What's intimacy? How do you like to be touched? And then like other things about like talking about their what they how they feel about each other. I think can be really helpful. Like what.
Dang it, y'all. Well, all I know is when she comes back, I think she's in a place where her internet is not working very well. But when she comes back, y'all, dang, don't we want her back? Because she knows a lot of stuff now. Don't get it twisted. She downplaying it. But if you go to her TikTok after sex stuff, she is super, super knowledgeable about everything. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to kind of bring this to the forefront because the truth is, y'all, is sex is one of those things we don't talk about. It's one of those things we let fly under the rug. And many of us are not sexually pleased. We're not satisfied. Number one, we don't tell our partner what makes us feel good. Or many times we feel like the person might judge us or it might not be a safe place for that person. But I'm going to tell y'all, listen, I don't know the number. In some relationships, sex weighs a lot more than others, but you got to be willing to have that conversation so that you can know, that you can find out what works, y'all. And I'm going to say this before she comes back. I was talking to one of my clients recently. And I said this, I said, people get confused about intimacy versus sex. And I said, intimacy and sex are not the same thing. Intimacy sex is geared around an act, okay? The act of us pleasing one another physically. Okay, and then there's an emotional connection many times. But intimacy in and of itself is about the emotional connection without the physical touch. See, I say intimacy, it stands for into me, I see. And what that is, don't ever forget this, what that is you being able to share your emotions with someone. So you're able to, number one, look inside yourself and share what's inside you. And what you say with intimacy is, I'm willing to let you look inside of me instead of being inside of me. See, that's different. We don't mind a person being inside of us because that's the sexual act. But looking inside of us, that's what intimacy is. It's all about questions. It's all about conversations. And a lot of us will have sex, but we won't be intimate. And that's the part that helps the relationship grow. You gotta be willing to be intimate. And so I don't know, maybe she will come back. Let me see if I can get her back. Okay, well, no. Dang it. All right, hold on. Let's see. Well, she just disappeared again. Um, yeah. Thank you so much, Keita. That's the whole thing is like I always tell people want to be inside, but they don't want to look inside. I want to get inside you, but I want to look inside you. And that goes for both ways. It goes for the person, the one who's allowing someone to be inside of them instead of looking inside them. Because we will avoid, we think about it, y'all. We are quicker to let a person enter inside of us instead of looking inside of us. Because a lot of times we don't want to look inside our own self because things that we see, the things that we're forced to be faced with. And so, but that's where restoration is. That's where you get everything that you need. That's where growth is. That's where all of the things that help you to become the person that you're becoming. Oh, Sabrina says, I'm coming. Hold on. All right, I'm with you. All right. She says, I'm here. I'm gonna say, okay, gotcha. All right, but that's the thing about it, y'all. And so what I want to do is I want us to start having the hard conversations. I want us to start be willing to say and the thing is, you got to be willing to talk about the things that that could possibly hurt you. That whole idea. Now I'm not saying give it to everybody. People have to earn it. But y'all, there are so many of us who are in relationships and we don't talk to each other. Now we might talk, but we don't communicate. And true communication is letting a person see on the inside of me. True communication is expressing your hopes, your fears, is expressing that your desires, or expressing how you feel about a particular thing. And we've got to be willing to do that. She's been trying to connect, y'all. Let me see if I can. What did it say? No, it won't. The device is not connected. It says your device is not connected. Dang, y'all. Okay. All right. First time. All right. So let me ask you a question. Any questions when she does get back, y'all want to ask her? Anybody want to ask her anything? I want you to put it in the comment section. I want you to say, hey, listen, what do you think about this? I'd like to know. Unfortunately, y'all, I'm waiting till she gets back. I hate that. But anyway, somebody just hit me. Let me see if this is her. Oh, it's her. She says I'm here, but I don't see. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Comments. All right. All right, y'all, hang loose with me for just a couple of minutes because I don't know. I know she's coming back. She's trying to get in, and I think her internet is not functioning properly. But I do want you all to come on back because I need her to do it. Anyway, in the meantime, in between time, here's what I will say. I got a question for everybody, and here's the question. And so while I wait, would you, let's say a person could meet all of your needs, your mental needs, financial needs, emotional needs. They met all of your needs, but they couldn't meet your sexual needs. Could you, could you, could you marry them? Could you get in a relationship with them? Anybody, what say you? If you met someone who met all of your needs, financial, mental, everything, gave you all the affection, but for some reason they could not meet your sexual needs. Sonia says, yes, I could. Okay. What do you think about Lori Harvey and Michael B. Jordan fiasco? I don't know about that. I heard about it, but I don't know the details, Naomi. I don't know all of the details, so I can't speak clearly on it intelligently. Anybody else? What would I can see you? You say you backstage, but it says your device isn't connected. Let me see. Maybe can I? No, kick from studio. No, it says, Sabrina, that your your device is not connected. Um, I'm trying to let you in, but it says, okay, it says you are not connected on mine. Maybe, okay. Hold on a minute. Y'all know technical difference. It says you will need to connect. They will need to connect their mic and camera before you can add them. Sabrina, if you're looking at me, it says you need to connect your mic or your mic and camera before I can add you. So it says you're not connected. I see you backstage, but it won't allow me to let you in until you do that. Yes, you can ask a question. Absolutely. What's your question? Sonia says, because sex is like icing on the cake, relationship is a cake. You can have the cake without the icing. Okay. You can have like a cake with no icing on it. All right. Yes. Sex is only a portion of a healthy relationship. All right. Naomi. Okay, good. Anybody else? Anybody else can marry somebody who met all your other needs, but not your sexual needs. What say you? I'd like to get your hey Sabrina, go out or try to hit the audio button or hit the video button. Do you see that? Because it's not letting you're doing it on your phone, right? All right. If you're doing it on your phone, hit that audio because what happens is it's saying that I see you backstage, but it's not letting you. Okay. There you go.
Oh, yeah. God. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. I don't know what the hell happened. It just cut out.
Okay, that's all right. I got you back. I was just trying to entertain the crowd before you got back.
All right. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. And you're echoing. So what do I do there? Anything?
I'm echoing?
Yeah. Let me see. What can I do?
Am I echoing to everyone else or is it just to Sabrina? Am I echoing to do I sound okay to everyone else or am I echoing to Sabrina? All right. Can somebody post help me out? Help me out. Naomi, help me out so I can know how we sound. So you said I'm echoey?
Yeah.
Okay, no echo. So it's just you.
Okay. It's just me. I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's fine.
All right, that's okay. Okay. All right, but I got you back. All right, listen. All right, so here's the question. What would you tell somebody, Sabrina, if I asked the question while you were gone? And I asked the question, I said, if a person could meet all of your all of your mental, emotional, financial needs, could meet all your needs, but they could not meet your sexual needs or could not, what would you tell them if they asked you, the sexpert, Sabrina B? Yeah. How would you handle that?
I don't know if you're going to like my answer.
It's not a matter. I just need the answer. Give it to me.
I hope this is like a safe space because I have thoughts on this that I think are maybe not super popular and what people necessarily want to hear. But I think that if you have somebody in your life that, you have a great foundation, your best friends, financially, intellectually, ethically, spiritually, all these things you're saying work, but sex doesn't work. That's up to you if that's a deal breaker. You could be able to build a life with that person and then possibly make that the center of your wheel. And then you have spokes where you can maybe satisfy sex in other ways, pending this is what you want and this is what the other person wants. Like I'm seeing it from a perspective in that like, I have like so many thoughts on this. Like I believe that sexuality is on a spectrum. So that like not everybody's explicitly straight and not everybody's explicitly gay. And I also believe that there's no reason that monogamy probably runs on that same spectrum too. That maybe
so
some people
get you somebody on the side.
if you can do it.
And I respect that. That's fair because some relationships believe they're okay with that. But here's my thing. I couldn't marry somebody who could not satisfy me sexually. I just couldn't.
And
I could not.
It's a deal breaker. Like, and it's a deal breaker for lots of people. Yeah. Like the person in your life that is going to be your partner, that is going to raise kids with you, that is going to be your best friend is the person that has to satisfy your sexual needs. And I understand that. So I don't know, like, this is why I don't want to be a marriage counselor. This is why, like, I'm interested in sex and communication and stuff like that. But if you have somebody who's highly sexual, sex is very important to them, and they're monogamous and they want that one person to satisfy all of those needs, and they don't, then maybe that person is not for you.
I love the way you dance around stuff. This shit is so cool. Like you are like the coolest. Cause like, I like, it's a safe space because the truth is I don't always say things that people agree with.
Yeah.
I just speak my truth.
Yeah.
And as a coach, many times I don't here let me explain this. Many people see, as a coach, you will never hear me say something is good or bad ever,
Mm.
because I don't get into moral judgments, because
Yeah.
what's good for you may not be good for me.
Yeah.
What I say is, what I teach them is, let's work from, is it working or not? If
Yeah.
it does not work, then okay, we're not going to do that. You don't need
Yeah.
to do that. But if that works for you, if swinging works for you, your
Mhm.
relationship, then okay. So let me coach you from this point. Let me
Yeah.
coach you from here.
Yeah.
All right. And so that's how I look at it. I don't get in that. So I understand what you're saying. I don't get into moral judgments. Everybody has their own thoughts of right or wrong and things. My thing is, do you want to stay together? Do you want to work this out? Then let's talk about what works and what doesn't. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. And I agree. I'm not here to. I think that people want to be told more than anything that they're like normal, and that like what they're feeling is normal, and that like, is it strange that I think about these things or that I'm having these problems? And usually they just want to hear, no, lots of people think this way and feel this way. The last thing I would do is ever judge somebody. That's not what I'm here to do.
What is the biggest challenge people have? All right, when they come to you, what's the top like 2 or 3?
Like, okay, so I started this sex ed TikTok, and I'm just talking about a lot of the stuff I'm learning, but the biggest videos that blew up where I get so many questions and I'm up all night answering them have to do with the pursuer avoider dynamic, which I talked
Please
about.
explain that.
Okay, so we learned in sex therapy that in long-term monogamous relationships, what happens when sex drives get out of sync, and that happens because we're all human, and that's going to happen from time to time, is that you default into this dynamic called pursuer avoider, where one person is constantly pursuing, they're trying to initiate sex, and the other person avoids it. And then you get locked in, some people for years, and some people it blows the whole marriage up. And then I said in that video that what we learned, which didn't surprise me at all, was that it's not very gendered, and that plenty of women pursue, plenty of men avoid, but that if he is the pursuer and he's getting frustrated, what happens really often is that she'll be like, oh, okay, get it over with, whatever, and he'll say no, and then it's like a stalemate, and then you have to work to resolve the stalemate, and he'll say no based on the foundation of, she doesn't want me, I want to be wanted, I want to be shown that I'm wanted, and then they kind of get locked, like horns lock. I got a lot of feedback from that, and what I wanted to draw attention to was that I think it really blows up a lot of what people believe about men, that you have these like insatiable drives, and that you'll never ever say no to sex under any circumstance. And that's not true, because when we're studying it in school, it's like, no, men will say no to sex quite frequently, and they'll say no to sex if they don't feel wanted. And
If they don't feel wanted, I
if you
told
don't feel
someone that
wanted, yeah,
recently.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I told someone that recently. She was like, "Well, I gave it to him." I said, "Well, wait a minute, you gave it to him." I said, and then he was like, "I don't want it." I said,
yeah,
"Yeah." I said, "It's almost like when you go to a restaurant and they don't want to serve you." And you say,
mm-hmm.
well, I don't have to stay here not to be served. I want to go somewhere where you want my business. I want to go somewhere
Yeah,
where I want to feel wanted. And I said, a lot of times, because a lot of women have the misconception that men just take it any kind of way, just bend over or whatever. But I said, if he cares about you,
mm-hmm.
if he cares about you and you act like you don't want to be with him, that will turn a man off and he will turn away from you. He will actually disconnect from you.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, and that's what we learned. But you said so many things that I want to agree with. That like, he wants to be wanted, he wants to be shown that he's wanted. But can you blame women for thinking that that's all he wants? Here, take it. Because we're like, indoctrinated almost into thinking that that's all that you want. But you run deeper than that. There's more to you than just that. And if you're saying, well, no, I want to feel wanted, you want to be shown that you're wanted, you want to be communicated with, well, sex is about communication for you, and sex is emotional for you. And it's not just about, here you go. That's hurtful. And I posted that video, and holy crap.
That video went off.
I was just like inundated with people like, well, how do I fix it? And how do I fix it? And it's like the same kind of dance where I'm like, it's not a fast answer. You'd have to really figure out, did you ever have, God, I could talk about this forever. Did you ever have a time in your life where you weren't pursuer avoider? Did you ever have a time in your life where your sex drives were matched? If so, what was it like then? Now try to explore that. Maybe you can replicate some things that were happening before. Do you fantasize about sex? Do you masturbate? Do you watch pornography? Because if the answer to those questions are yes, then you have desire. But if you're not having sex, then you don't have drive. And then you have to figure out what's standing in your way.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I walk in on my partner, and my partner, she's masturbating.
Okay.
And I'm not included in the process, hypothetically, because a lot of people masturbate, but they won't be with their partner, right?
Yeah.
What do you think? What would you say the problem is, or is that normal, or what's going on there?
You walk in on your partner masturbating, and they don't want to include you in the process,
Yeah,
and you're acting.
I'm like, I want to have sex with you, but you rather masturbate.
I don't see any problem with that whatsoever. Like it depends on what your view of masturbation is. Like, I think it's self-care. It's self-care. You gotta change the oil.
I love it.
Yeah, you gotta check in. You know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't surprise me, nor shock me, nor do I think it's strange if people are maybe turning down sex in favor of masturbating, because
Tell me why.
I think it's the best way to connect with yourself. It's the fastest way to orgasm. You know your body better than anybody else. And you have to, it is self-care. You'd have to check in with yourself. I don't know how else to say it. Like, it's, what happens really often, and I learned this, is when women get vibrators for the first time, they tend to like lock themselves in with them. They're like, oh my God, this is like this whole new world. And there's like a lot of guilt and shame about not including their partners. And we are told to counsel them out of that. And you don't have to be guilty about making yourself feel good. And if you eventually want to incorporate your partners, the vibrator is, his or her ally. Don't be intimidated by that, but that's your private relationship with that thing, because you have to be able to let loose with yourself, to be able to let go with yourself before you can do that with anyone else. Like,
but what if
you are your oldest partner?
But what if they develop an attachment that might be an unhealthy attachment, where now I'm clinging to the vibrator and you are no longer needed?
Okay, like almost like addicted to it.
Addicted.
But like,
addicted.
Addiction is so difficult to talk about in sex, because it's so hard to classify. Like other addictions, and you probably know some of this, like in order to classify them, it has to be something that you do in secret and hide from people. But like, you masturbate in secret anyways, so like that's a private activity. Other addictions, you have to basically quit cold turkey. But I don't think anybody's going to advise you to quit masturbating cold turkey. Like, it should be a part of your health. It should be like self-care. You'd have to ask the person, what is the vibrator doing for you that your partner can't do? If they're like, well, it's making me orgasm, then your partner's not making you orgasm. Okay, so then show him or her what it is that you want done to you, and communicate. Like sex is rarely about sex. It's usually about something else. They're not listening to you. They're not talking to you. You don't feel close to them. Or what is it going to take for you to feel close to your partner again? And then explore those questions. Sometimes it's like the vibrator doesn't judge me. Vibrator doesn't ask me any questions. A vibrator, just
a vibrator consistent. It's going to stay
consistent. Yeah.
As long as the battery's in there, it's going to run. And it's gonna be like, But see,
Yeah.
I'm very transparent. Like me and my wife, we have a great sex life, and like I tell her, bring all the vibrators in the room. Let me use them all. I want to get acquainted with them too, and so, but both of us are okay with our sexuality. We really explore each other. But I established that years ago. I think I established this real talk. Is my first girlfriend, second girlfriend, she used to call me Bam Bam, right? And she used to call me Bam Bam, and she called me that later on in life. And I was like, Bam Bam. She was like, because all you used to do is get on top and go bam, bam, bam. And then after that, but I was like a teenager, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to understand sex and be better.
Yeah.
And so, like, my whole objective is I want to please my wife. And then, however that works out for us, that works out. Well, we talk about sex. So my wife does coaching for women too. All right.
Oh, very cool.
She gonna kill me for saying this. So the first thing that when women call her and they ask her things, and my wife says, "Well, how well do you know yourself?
Yeah.
Right? How well do you know your own body?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh," and she was like, "That's the damn problem right there."
Yeah.
You don't know your own body. So when you're educating people, do you ever run into that where women really don't want to they've been told so many things about masturbation, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. But that's all part. That's why I hate like purity culture. And in a perfect world, people aren't ashamed of this kind of stuff. And I posted so many videos about female pleasure and how it's not taught in schools. We don't really talk about it much. So girls and don't really understand how to explore their own bodies. And then people will say things like, oh, it's his responsibility to make sure that, she comes every time they have sex. But like, if you don't understand your own body, that's a lot of pressure on somebody else. So Is it his responsibility to do that? I think it's that he should be invested, but you also have a responsibility to understand how your body works. Otherwise, like he's in the dark with no flashlight. That's like you're not able to communicate to him what you want if you don't even know your own self, but that's really difficult for people to do. Like sexual shame is a big thing. It's everywhere. Like
it is.
I'm not sexually that's why I think I've gotten involved in sex ed, because I think I'm wired differently. This shame thing, I don't have it. And I don't think I had it as a kid either. It was so easy for me to talk about sex that it kind of perplexed me that people were like, "Oh, masturbate? I don't know how to do that. I never do. That's disgusting." I was like, "What? Why? What? Like, what do you do all day? How do you even know what to do then?" But anyways,
wow.
But yes, I have run into that so many times. I don't know if you ever go on my Instagram or on my TikTok, I post pictures of the clitoris, and it's just an illustration.
I've seen the pictures of the clitoris on your Instagram. I have. So I'm like, yeah, I've seen that before.
It's like it's a literal wishbone. It looks like that. So it's big. And when I put that picture up there, or like if I tell my friends about it, women, they're like, "That's a clitoris? I thought it was like a little thing like this big." Like, you don't even know what your own body looks like, and that's not your fault. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of that information's been kept from us. And this is why, again, it's after sex ed, because we don't really learn about this in school. The hope is that you have a partner such as yourself, who's open, who's flexible, who's creative, that wants to learn and wants to learn with you. But not everybody gets that. Some people, they don't learn with their partners. They don't even learn with their own selves.
So I'm into this sex ed, right? So okay, all right. So let's get a little raunchy here.
Okay.
So some women. So I was reading something about some women don't have orgasms vaginally, right? Mm-hmm. And I was actually wondering why that is, but they like sex. And so I read an article recently that the clitoris is on the women who don't have an orgasm vaginally, it is a quarter of an inch further back from the opening. Like, like, okay, so this is what oh, if you didn't know, I'm teaching you something,
Yeah,
right?
tell me.
So what it said was, it said that some women, like their clitoris is a quarter. The reason why they don't come vaginally is because the clitoris is too far back. It's a quarter of an inch further. This is what that's why I'm asking the expert. I
Yeah.
don't know. And then they say the ones who do, it's moved a quarter of an inch. They use quarter of an inch.
Yeah.
Forward. But I don't know. So I'm asking you, is that true?
If I was a betting woman, I'm gonna bet no. I'm just gonna say no. Like off the bat. I feel like female sexuality, sex, all of it is just like very woefully understudied. A lot of what we've heard like basically isn't true. It's just that have you ever heard that the clitoris has 8,000 nerve endings and that the penis has like 4? Have you ever heard that before?
I've never heard 8,004, but I've heard like it has a lot. I mean, I didn't know the number.
So I had heard that a million times, and that's just not true. Like, the truth is that we don't know how many nerve endings the clitoris has, and we don't even know how many nerve endings the head of the penis has. We have no idea because no one's really studied it.
A lot.
It's just that there's a lot. The 8,000 number came from a bovine study from cows. So then that gets like snowballs into something way different. All of a sudden you're hearing it in my classes. We're like, is that true? Is that true, teacher? And they're like, no. And it's just the truth is that every person is unique. Like you have fingertips, you have, your skin, everybody's different. Everybody's different in their own unique way. So like your penis may have whatever 4,000 nerve endings and his penis may have 4,050. It is what it is. We just know it feels good. And that some women are able to have orgasms through penetrative sex and some aren't, in the way that everybody's vulva is a little bit different. And
okay,
that's it.
So somebody told me, you know how they say you hear something on the internet, it's got to be true. Like, so in other words, that's probably less like bullshit meter.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's why I didn't say it to anybody. So that's why I asked you.
If I may, can I say a little bit more about that? Because I don't want to say it's total bullshit. It's just that the G-spot.
Yes,
like everyone's heard of it.
I've heard of the G-spot, and I even looked at where it is and tried it all out and all of that. So I'm like, I'm measuring, but I got you.
So like everyone's heard of it, and everyone knows like the come here motion, like this is what you have to do, and blah blah blah. The G-spot has been so controversial. Like it's been and nothing about female sexuality is without controversy, but basically it's going through a bit of a rebrand. And in the sex education community, we don't want to call it G-spot anymore. We call it a clitoral urethra valve zone. It's really long. It's just not as catchy. So it's like an area that still has like nerve endings of like where the clitoris is going there. So really most orgasms are likely coming from the clitoris. You know what I mean? And it's just like the penetration, like the act of penetration is just pulling on it. And like you just experience it that way, and that's it. So like I guess that like in keeping with what you were asking, like, hey, is it a quarter of an inch higher or lower, blah blah blah, like who knows? But that zone, the clitoral urethra zone that people think is the G-spot, that is now the G-spot, is different on different human beings because every human being is different.
So like my wife's G-spot could be like on her thigh or something?
No. It's probably going to be in the vagina somewhere.
Oh, it's going to be in that area. Okay.
Yeah, but she might not respond the way that somebody else might. That's all.
All right, so let me go. So since we're in the raunchy part, let me go this. Squirting. How in the world is somebody squirting? And the second part of that is, what are they squirting? Is it like urine? I mean,
Okay, so I posted another video on TikTok about this, and I said it's not urine because it's not, and everybody yelled at me. So we study this. We again, so much of sex is woefully understudied. So there's all of this conjecture that's out there where people are like, well, it looks like pee and blah blah blah. it has been studied, it has been smelled, it has been tested, it has been tasted, it has all kinds of stuff. It's not. It's just a fluid that comes from the Skene's gland, which is kind of akin to what a man's prostate is. So when women have orgasms, like it pulses, like your vaginal walls pulse, right? And then it's for some women in the Skene's glands, if there's fluid, it just comes out, and some it doesn't. And that's that.
See,
So
didn't I see? I told y'all. I told you that she would answer questions. The Skene's gland. So all y'all squirting out here, you thinking you're doing something. All right, but listen. So okay, so I get this sometimes.
Okay.
I get all kinds of questions, but I know. Do you ever run across someone who's never had an orgasm, like a female?
Like, yeah, yes, or
Is
yes.
that common?
Yeah, it's common. It's I mean, it's like, again, I teach sex education mainly to adolescents. So like adolescents saying, I don't know how to do that, miss. Like, I've never had one. Is that yeah, that happens a lot. But like women my age and older, yeah. Especially through, I think what confuses like women mostly is when they're not having orgasms through penetrative sex, when they're like, is something wrong with me? I can't have one like that. That tends to be a big concern for them. And the truth is there's no right way to have an orgasm. You just orgasm through clitoral stimulation like most of us do, and that's fine. But have I ever encountered anyone that has never had one once? Yes. Wow. For sure. And usually it's just they don't know.
Is it often? Do you come across that often?
I wouldn't say too often, but it's happened. It's more like just a lot of confusion. Like, I think it feels good. I don't know how to replicate that again. Or like if I do something and it feels good, but it's not penetrative, am I doing it wrong? Like that happens a lot. Because you're only really getting one image of sex. That's why, like, the questions I was asking before, like, what is sex to you? Is it a penis goes in a vagina? Because if that's the case, then for lots of women, orgasms are kind of not on the table. But if you zoom out and you're like, okay, well, sex is about pleasure, sex is about making somebody feel good, then what is sex? You'd have to ask yourself that question again, because then the counter to a penis isn't actually vagina. It's the counter to a penis is a clitoris. Those two are twins. So now if you're like, oh, okay, well, that's the counter, you're likely going to start having sex a little bit differently. Does that make sense?
That really does. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, okay. So what is the weirdest request or question you've ever gotten?
I mean, if you were to go in my comments, like, you'd see all kinds of like really, I try to answer everything as just like normally as I can, but I get a lot of questions for just people asking to see pictures of my feet. Are you asking about stuff like that? Because that's more like, can you send this to me? And I'm like, no. I get a lot of questions about, okay, just like in sex education, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what gender orientation. It doesn't matter. There's two kinds of questions in sex ed. There's, how do I do whatever? So how do I masturbate? How do I have an orgasm? How do I use a condom? How do I use a tampon? Whatever. And then there's, am I normal? And that's it. It's just two camps of questions. So the am I normal is like, there's all kinds of stuff in there. And sometimes it's endearing because the normal, am I normal, is so normal. Like, I watch, I'm a woman, I'm straight. They'll say I'm straight, but I watch lesbian porn. Am I gay now? What does this mean? And is something wrong with me? Stuff like that. And you're like, no, lots of people watch all different kinds of pornography. Like, and that's where, I could talk about sexuality being on a spectrum. Or like, when I fantasize, I don't think about myself. I think about two other people doing it. Or when I fantasize, sometimes I gender swap.
Oh, that's
just what's wrong with me? Yeah.
That's just porn.
Yeah. But porn, I think, really screws a lot of people up. Like,
okay, let's talk about that. I want to talk about that because I got that recently from one of my, not a student who had a question. She says, I think that my partner is addicted to porn.
Yeah.
And it distorts our sex life. So how would you handle? Tell me why you feel like porn messes up a lot of
I
people
like
from
porn
your
is just
perspective.
like I want to preface it by saying maybe not everyone will agree with me, and these are just
That's okay.
yeah.
You the expert. Everybody got to agree.
Yeah, porn is very polarizing. So different people feel differently about
Sure.
it. So
Sure.
I would want to know what it is about his habits that are concerning her. Like I would want to know what her views on porn are, period. Is she allowed to watch it? Is it the kind of porn that he's watching? Is it the frequency with which he's watching it? Because again, in the way that I was saying that masturbation is self-care, lots of people watch porn and masturbate and they just kind of put that away. It doesn't really do anything to their lives. They're just like, I jerk off to porn, I go to bed. Boof. And maybe he's like that, because if that's the case, I don't know that it's so concerning. But I would say this much. Do you know what a parapholitic disorder is, if I said that?
I don't have a clue what that is.
Okay. So
Is
that's
that like a
basically
ham sandwich?
no. So paraphilic disorder is a sex disorder. So like
Okay.
how do you determine if somebody has a disorder or has a kink? And porn you wouldn't usually apply to a paraphilic disorder, mostly because so many people watch it. Like it's too common to be considered a kink. And that's what I mean by some funny questions. Like people will be like, oh my God, am I weird? I watch porn sometimes. Like, no, lots of people watch porn. It's not strange. But in order to determine if somebody's got a disorder, there's about 4 or 5 questions that you'd ask. And one of them is, does it stress you out, or is it causing you distress in your life that you're watching porn? But does it cause you distress, not your partner? So like imagine a world where either A, you don't have a partner, or B, your partner loves to watch porn with you. And if the answer is like, yes, oh, we watch porn together, I would not be stressed out, then it's not causing you distress. You've got relational distress, and that's different. Like it has to be you. And you're like, I don't want to be like this anymore, is one of the questions. The other question is, do you need porn, as an example, to become aroused every single time?
Okay.
And then the third big question is, would you replace your partner with porn? So would you turn down sex with porn? So if he's answering yes to that, if he's like, I need it every time, I'm not stressed about, I don't care, like I think it's fine, let's say, and I'm turning down sex with her to watch porn, then I would call that concerning. I don't know that it's a disorder, but I would call it concerning. Like you'd have to kind of ask him now, what is porn doing for you that she can't do with you? Because sex, like a healthy part of sexuality, like really the foundation of healthy sexuality is vulnerability, like you were talking about before. That's what people say they want. They want to be able to be vulnerable with somebody, and they want somebody to be vulnerable with them, and reciprocity. So I'm outputting emotion and I want to get the emotion back. So if you're like picking an image on a screen over a living, breathing human that wants you, like, yeah, that's a bit concerning. So I guess the questions would now be, yeah, what is the pornography doing for you that she's not doing? Do you believe that you're connecting emotionally with the images on the screen? Is it what they're doing that you like? Is there specific activities that they're doing? Like, is the fantasy of, is the porn necessarily the thing that you want to do? Like, there's, I don't know, too many questions, but off the bat, it's just so difficult to determine whether or not somebody's addicted. But if somebody's turning down sex for porn, then their partner does have cause for concern. I would say that that's concerning.
Wow.
That doesn't really, does that answer it?
Listen, I want to keep going, y'all, but I promised her that I'd only hold her an hour. We're
okay. It's up to you. We can go a little bit more if you want.
All right, well, good. Then we're gonna go a little bit more. Then, all right. So, initiation of sex.
Yeah.
You brought up earlier something that you wrote about the pursuer.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and I see this with men that I coach, they feel like I'm always asking, I'm always the one initiating sex, and I'm tired of it. If you don't want me, and then some of them say they turn away and go to somewhere else.
Yeah.
And is that often? And how do you tell people to handle that?
So in pursuer avoider, if the man's the pursuer, like we learned that oftentimes like he'll refuse the sex if he feels like she's just giving in, and that he won't necessarily cheat right away. He'll just stop doing nice things for her, and he'll stop showing her affection in these other ways. I think that it's so common, especially like this video that I posted. It blew up so much that I've never been inundated this much by people wanting to know how to fix that. Was the question like, is it common that people will cheat after that, or like?
Yeah, is that the gateway to infidelity?
I mean, I don't think necessarily people cheat for all different kinds of
All different
reasons.
kinds of reasons.
Yeah, and like cheating is not gendered. A lot of people think men cheat more. No, it's like a 50-50 split. It's pretty close.
I read a study recently, and they said 22% of men cheat, 19% of women cheat.
Oh wow, really? Okay, yeah. So it's close.
It's close.
It's close, and that, I mean, what we were learning too is that people have so much gendered behavior in their minds that they're like, oh, well, when women cheat, it's because they're emotionally unfulfilled, and men cheat because they want sex. And that's false. Men are, can cheat just as much because they feel emotionally isolated, and they're looking for affection, and they're looking for intimacy. I don't know that it's necessarily a gateway for cheating, because some people are going to cheat just for sex. It's possible that people can compartmentalize that and be like,
Yes.
I love this person. They're my best friend. I don't want to blow my marriage up. I'm bored sexually. I'm going here. Like, and then other people are like, they never initiate. It's immiserating. I'm lonely. I need, affection and attention. And then they cheat for more emotional reasons. Anyways, pursuer avoider really sucks. Like, people get stuck in that stalemate for like a while. You can get out of it. I think that the best way to get out of it, really, it's going to sound like a really boring answer, is communication. You'd have to really zoom out and ask yourself, like, if you want her, as an example, to pursue more, if you want her to initiate more, then what does your sex life look like right now? Because when you have sex, how often is she having an orgasm? Like, are you having an orgasm every time? If I could talk about the orgasm gap, which is a really big problem in a lot of heterosexual marriages, which is men are climaxing close to 100% of the time, and women are climaxing around 40% of the time.
So is it 40%?
It's like between 40 and 50.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
So it's like roughly half the time women are climaxing, and this is in relationship sex. So that's just an example. So if you're kind of locked in that dynamic and you're like she never initiates with me, it's really frustrating. Like, zoom out and ask yourself, does the orgasm gap resonate with you? Because if that's the case, like, half the time it's like she's not even there. So like, you'd really have to ask yourself, how can I include her more? Like, if I want her to initiate, how would I want to be treated? Another thing too, and I tend to talk a lot, so if you want me to stop talking,
I got a question though. I do have a question.
Yeah, go.
Chanel said this. Do you believe that the vibrator, I guess, desensitizes and causes the woman to climax with the man?
No. No, vibrators don't do that. I don't want to hear that. La, 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 la. I don't want to hear that anymore. That's not your body. It's built for pleasure. Just chill. Have a good time with it. Is it that if you use a vibrator too much, it's going to desensitize your nerve endings?
That's what she was asking.
No.
Okay. What about when you have things like men want to explore like anal sex, and other things where you have a woman who may just be traditional or whatever, and I just want vaginal. I'm not oral, I'm not anal, I'm not any of that. How do you tell them to handle that? Not necessarily handle it, but I guess it all boils down to communication, obviously.
Yeah, I wish I'm not a sexpert in this regard. You know what I mean? Because you want to be wanted. Everybody wants to be wanted. Everybody wants to be shown that they're wanted. So if you're with somebody that clearly like doesn't want to do what you're asking them to do you want them to do that with you? Like, so like, okay, some of the things that we learned about fantasies and keeping people's sex lives like on track and satiated is novelty. So introducing something new has huge impacts on a couple that's been together a long time. And there's a recent study that came out that said if you could introduce something new every month or every other month, you could probably keep each other's attention engaged. It's fun, you're playful and stuff. It doesn't have to be what you just described. It doesn't have to be anal. It doesn't have to be this next level thing that somebody's uncomfortable with, but you can try different kinds of novelties that perhaps they're more comfortable with, like sexting, like dirty talk, like underwear, like role play. Like you could try all kinds of different things and maybe introduce novelty in a different way, because it could be that like that's what you're wanting is just novelty, like something new I've never done before, and then maybe perhaps eventually if you explore the things that they want, that they would warm up to the things that you want. Hopefully you're not like pressuring them. And then also people love to break taboos. It's like it's a naughty dirty thing you're not supposed to be doing, so perhaps there's another taboo that you could break that you're both comfortable with. Voyeurism, I don't know, you know what I mean?
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So before I let you go, because I am going to let you go, because I know she's got a little one, y'all.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this.
Yeah.
How do you're in a relationship, say I'm dating, and this is a question that I want to ask you for me. And I've got all kinds of clients, and I want them to approach sex in a way that would be healthy so that they can talk about everything.
Yeah.
How would you suggest that they approach them?
So that they can talk about everything?
Prior to, like, for instance, I think sex is super duper important. It's super duper important. So we need to talk about it. But a lot of people don't talk about things prior to. They make assumptions. And how would you tell them, or what would you tell them to do prior to getting married? That's
Oh boy. I mean,
yeah, I put you on the spot.
Wow. I mean, you talked about it a lot though. When I was cut off, I could hear you, you couldn't hear me. You talked about vulnerability a lot and how sex and intimacy were two different things. And you're right. You're absolutely right. So, I mean, like, what is vulnerability? Like, does it mean being naked with somebody, or does it mean being naked with somebody in a different way? You could share things that you've never shared with them before. You could trust them with whatever, like a kind of a state. You don't need to build intimacy through sexual vulnerability. You can build it in an emotional vulnerability. I'm no marriage expert, and marriage is tough. And I even said before, maybe you should be exploring other people if you so I don't know that I'm the pro on that, but really, as far as sex is concerned, what we learn over and over again is that people are looking for two things: vulnerability and reciprocity. They just want to be able to be bare who they are with somebody, and they are desperate to have somebody match that emotion back to them. You don't have to have sex with somebody to do that. You can be vulnerable and reciprocate with a good friend even. It's just figuring out how to let yourself trust somebody enough to be that vulnerable. Does that answer it?
Hey, look, that's the answer. Hey, thank you. Hey, all I want to say, listen, y'all, you got to follow her on TikTok, and it's After Sex Ed, and she is dope as hell, for real. Her TikTok is growing like crazy. Thank you so much, Sabrina. I appreciate you. I've had super duper fun with you, and we finally made this happen.
Yeah.
And I know people appreciate it because you're talking about something. You're talking about issues and challenges that people have, real stuff. And the fact that you're willing to tackle it, I know you come from a intellectual and an academic way standpoint, but it's needed, and so thank you for that.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm very flattered that you asked me to be here.
Yes. All right, y'all. All right, y'all. Listen, this is another episode. I appreciate you all, because you could be anywhere in the world, but you are here with us tonight. And I will say, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Listen, have a great week. Watch the replay. All right, y'all. All right. I'm Ken, and we're out. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Hey, stay backstage and let's
Okay.
chat for a quick second. All
Sure.
right. And I'm going to end this.